Good morning, friends. Good chilly morning to you this morning. Chilly, not Chili. That might be for supper tonight. Um, what is it? What's the weather forecast? Chilly today, hot tamale. Anyway, I'm Brian. I'm the pastor here at Christ United Methodist Church, Pastor Brian, hence the term PB. And this is another episode of PB Reads the Bible. In fact, today is day 3 on our journey through the book of Ruth, from ruin to redemption. Redemption is an important part of the story. Today's chapter 3, chapter 4 tomorrow, and that ends it, because Ruth is only a four-chapter book, which is good because I'm off next week, so we won't be having this next week. We will start back up, should be able to start back up on Monday the 15th. Don't think I have anything. Nope, don't have anything going on. So we will start back up again on Monday the 15th. And thinking about a couple different, I think we're going to go to a gospel. We've done Luke and we've done Mark. So maybe we're either going to do Matthew or John when we come back. Maybe Matthew. I might save John till closer to Lent or something like that. Anyway, but we're almost done here with Ruth. So good morning to you all. I see some folks are checking in. That's wonderful. Go ahead and do that. Say hello, say good morning, whatever it is you want to say. Let me know you're there. Some are live, some are watching this in a recording. That's great. I really am humbled, and when I hear from folks saying how much they look forward to these, that means a lot. It really does. Hello, Cheryl. Good morning to you. Good morning, Maureen. She says hi to everyone, in case you didn't see that. Like, mouse isn't working too well this morning. I think it's asleep or frozen, perhaps. Good morning, Marcia. Good morning. Ice on the deck this morning, but the sun is warming the earth and spirits. Oh, that is wonderful. What a wonderful expression. Thank you, Pat, for that. It does brighten things up. John and Cindy joining you live from Dodge City. Oh my gosh, you're up bright and early, folks. You're up bright and early. But good morning. Welcome. Welcome from Dodge City. Okay, cool. So yeah, just a reminder, tomorrow is going to be the last for this for a while. We'll finish Ruth up. We're taking that week off. I'm going to look at it, but I think we're going to either do Matthew or John, probably Matthew, unless somebody has something else that they really, really, really want to look at. But I think a gospel would be a good place to go as we're getting close to the season of Lent. So, Advent, getting close to the season of Advent. So maybe Matthew would be a good one. Matthew's a good one because it's like 28 chapters or whatever. So it'll take us almost to Christmas, not quite, but close by the time we're done. Of course, Sunday is worship, and we'll be finishing up our series, 21 Questions, 21 Days to a More Authentic Faith. Hopefully you've been using your GPS guide every day, and I do pray that that's been beneficial to you. We'll have another one for next week. On Sunday, we'll also be celebrating All Saints Sunday, remembering sisters and brothers, family and friends that have gone before us, have claimed their eternal reward. Many of whom were just this past year, but others that folks wanted to have candles for because they're still mourning their loss, which is totally understandable. Howdy, Hartmans. Howdy, Hartmans. Awesome. So we'll be doing that all on Sunday. And in person, we'll be having communion. The bishops have decided that they no longer want us to do virtual communion. It doesn't go with their understanding of theology. So I won't be directly giving instructions to folks watching at home on how to do that. Of course, if they choose to do it on their own, I can't control that, right, folks? But we will have that in person at 8:15 and 10:45. The celebration for All Saints is only the 10:45 service, which will be live streamed if you wanted to join us that way. It reminds me I do need to make a couple phone calls. Um, but that's it. So let's get it. Let's get into this, shall we? Chapter 3. I'm going to say a few things before we read. Then I'll read it. Then we'll go back and break it up. We're going to go back and break it up. Chapter 3, fittingly, has 3 scenes to it. Fittingly has 3 scenes to it. Now, scene 1 kind of sets the stage a little bit. Scene 2 heightens the drama and the tension. We would expect the 3rd scene to resolve the tension, but it doesn't. It actually heightens it a little bit more and leaves it kind of hanging there. So to get the resolution, we have to wait until chapter 4. The author did a wonderful job on this story. Really did. In this chapter here, chapter 3, as I mentioned in chapter 2, and I think even in chapter 1, the author has wonderful puns, wonderful wordplay going on in several different ways. And I could save this till later, but we'll talk about it now. One is the word that we translate as uncovered, because in Hebrew, the word that we translate uncovered also sounds like the word that we translate as recovered, which is the same word we translate as redeemed, or the same word that we translate as act as next of kin. Okay, so whenever you see any of those things in English, try to remember that in Hebrew they sound alike. So as people are reading or hearing this story read in its original Hebrew, those words are so similar that they're going to catch what the author is doing. He's playing the words against each other. He's playing the words against each other. What else is he doing? Now, as I mentioned yesterday, as I mentioned in chapter 2, he uses the word for know, or which gets translated see and notice and that kind of thing in one way. And he uses it differently in chapter 3, using the same word. And it can be taken at that surface level just to know, but it can also be taken to mean sexual relations. Okay, there can be sexual undertones to it. What else is taking place? Well, and the same thing with lie down. Lie down can just mean lie down, but lie down also can be a euphemism for sex. What else? I think we'll save the other ones for when we get to there, and we'll come back to it. I don't want to mess things up too bad on you, because I try to hear this story, read this story almost for the first time, not knowing what's going to happen, and it can be taken at a surface level or a different level in a different way of reading it. So let's go. Chapter 3. Naomi, her mother-in-law, said to her, "My daughter, I need to seek some security for you, so that it may be well with you. Now here is our kinsman Boaz, with whose young women you have been working. See, he is winnowing barley tonight at the threshing floor. Now wash and anoint yourself, and put on your best clothes, and go down to the threshing floor. But do not make yourself known to the man until he has finished eating and drinking. When he lies down, observe the place where he lies. Then go and uncover his feet and lie down, and he will tell you what to do." She said to her, "All that you tell me, I will do." So she went down to the threshing floor and did just as her mother-in-law had instructed her. When Boaz had eaten and drunk, and he was in a contented mood, he went to lie down at the end of the heap of grain. Then she came stealthily and uncovered his feet and lay down. At midnight, the man was startled and turned over, and there, lying at his feet, was a woman. He said, "Who are you?" And she answered, "I am Ruth, your servant. Spread your cloak over your servant, for you are next of kin." He said, "May you be blessed by Hashem, my daughter. This last instance of your loyalty is better than the first. You have not gone after young men, whether poor or rich. And now, my daughter, do not be afraid. I will do for you all that you ask, for all the assembly of my people know that you are a worthy woman. But now, though it is true that I am a near kinsman, there is another kinsman more closely related than I. Remain this night, and in the morning, if he will act as next of kin for you, good, let him do it. If he is not willing to act as next of kin for you, then, as Hashem lives, I will act as next of kin for you. Lie down until the morning. So she lay at his feet until morning, but got up before one person could recognize another, for he said, it must not be known that the woman came to the threshing floor. Then he said, bring the cloak you are wearing and hold it out. So she held it out, and he measured out 6 measures of barley and put it on her back. Then he went into the city. She came to her mother-in-law, who said, how did things go with you, my daughter? Then she told her all that the man had done for her, saying, he gave me the 6 measures of barley, for he said, do not go back to your mother-in-law empty-handed. She replied, wait, my daughter, until you learn how the matter turns out. For the man will not rest, but will settle the matter today. End of chapter 3. Right, end of chapter 3. Ooh, lovely little story. Lovely little story. Hang on one sec. Yeah. Lovely little story, and we can read it very very literally, just like, this is what happened. This is what happened. However, so much of the words have double meanings and double understandings, double connotations, and literally it's filled with double entendres. It can be read in an entirely different way, and it partially depends on on your background, how a person wants to read it, and how a group of people might want to read it. Somebody that's really prudish may want to read it just as it is. They don't want to get into any of these other possibilities. Personally, I think the author intentionally left things very ambiguous. He used these expressions that he knew had double meanings for a purpose, and he wanted people to kind of read it both ways. I think I'm not alone in thinking that. I'm not way out on the end. All right, so we're going to go back, because PB, what are you talking about? All right, we're going to go back. We're going to look at this. So it's been 7 weeks, because they're to the end of the wheat season, right? They're into the end of the wheat season. Ruth has been working in Boaz's field for 7 weeks, for about 7 weeks, and nothing's happened. Boaz hasn't done anything. Initially, Ruth wanted to be near the young men, but both Boaz and Naomi said, stay close to the women. They might have done it for 2 different reasons. They might have done it for the same reason. Why did Ruth want to be near the young men, as described in chapter 2? Even though Boaz told her, stay with my women, she changed it. She told Naomi, oh, he told me to stay with his women, with his men. Maybe she was hopeful at catching one of these young men and getting them to marry her, because that would have provided her security. That would have provided security for her, not necessarily for Naomi, but for her, if she had done that. No, maybe that's why Naomi said, well, don't go with the men. Stay with the women. Stay with the women. She wanted to keep something else open. Maybe this was what was in her mind all along. Because now Naomi really seems to be laying, we might say laying a trap for Boaz. We can look at this a couple different ways, again, because of the Hebrew, because it's a little bit ambiguous, because the author doesn't fill in all of the details. We have to fill in some of them ourselves. Naomi might be setting up a plot to trap Boaz. However, she also might be just trying to nudge Boaz into doing what he should have done all along, because of the Hebrew laws as far as kinsman redeemer and all that. So it could be one or the other. She could be trapping him. She and Ruth, I should say. She could be trapping Boaz, laying this trap, or they could just be trying to prompt him. Now, it also sounds, because of the double meanings to things, it almost sounds like she's trying to prostitute Ruth out. Why do I say that? Because she's telling her she's going down to the threshing floor. She says he's going down to the threshing floor. He's going to be threshing out the barley, I think it said in the story, right? Yeah, winnowing barley tonight at the threshing floor. Well, the threshing floor, we don't know this, right? We don't get this part. But the threshing floor is where prostitution took place. It's where paid for sex happened. It's where paid for sex happens. And she's telling Ruth, wash up, put your best perfume on, put your best clothes on. So it sounds like she's trying to get her to prostitute herself with Boaz. However, we can also understand that as to say it's perhaps it's time to end your period of mourning. Okay, the author doesn't say it, but those terms, as far as washing, anointing, perfuming, and putting on your best clothes, also could be a signal of the end of a period of mourning. So she might be telling Ruth, it's time to end. It's time to stop mourning your deceased husband, and it's time to get on with your life. You do this, and you go down to the threshing floor, and you lay down with the man, and he will tell you what to do. And it says in there, no, notice what she says to do. She said, don't make yourself known until the man has finished eating and drinking. Until the man has finished eating and drinking. And it even says a little bit later that when he had eaten and drunk and he was in a contented mood. So it seems like she wants them to get him drunk, is what it sounds like. Now, the readers can remember back to Genesis chapter 19. I think it was chapter 19. Following Lot's escape from Sodom and Gomorrah and the destruction thereof, and he and his two daughters fled up into the hills and are living in a cave. And the two daughters, what the older daughter says to the younger daughter, hey, we're the last people on earth. Who's going to carry on our family name, our father's name? We have to get him drunk so that he can get us pregnant. And they go through that whole scene. So the reader's going to remember that and say, and who did I say Ruth's ancestor was, or who Ruth was descended from? The Moabites were believed to have been descended from Lot. So the author is playing on that. This is what Lot's daughters did, and now Naomi is having Ruth do the same thing. So it seems that's one way to read it, because she says when he lies down, and again there's that double meaning, can mean just lie down, or it could have that sexual overtone, and it is on the threshing floor. Uncover his feet and lie down. Uncover his feet and lie down. Well, what's the big deal? Well, uncovering his feet. Feet is a euphemism. It's a euphemism for genitalia. It's a euphemism for genitalia. So she wants her or at least it can be read just uncovering his feet. However, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But it does indicate that it has those tones, and it's used elsewhere in Scripture. Same thing, uncovering feet, meaning to uncover genitalia. That she uncovered him and lied down with him. And again, that term "lie down" could be sexual, or could be that she just laid down next to him. That she laid down next to him, and and just do whatever he tells you to do, and he will tell you what to do. So she does exactly as Naomi says to do. After he has eaten and drunk and is in a contented mood, she creeps over stealthily, uncovers his feet, and lays down next to him. Now, verse 8, and the NRSV says, at midnight, the man was startled. The NIV says, in the middle of the night, something startled the man. So he wakes up. He wakes up. The Hebrew word that's translated at midnight or in the middle of the night elsewhere is translated, and so it came to pass. Right? And it came to pass, which signifies a change in scene. So usually change in scene. I'm reminded of the story in Luke, the birth story in Luke chapter 2, and it came to pass that shepherds were abiding in the field. So it's a change in the scene. But so the man wakes up. The man wakes up, and he's startled because he finds a woman lying at his feet. She could be just lying by his feet, and he's startled because he wasn't aware of this until now. And he can't see who it is because it's night, and it's midnight and it's dark. They don't have candles. He can't clap his hand and make the light come on or anything like that. Or it could be that she has uncovered him to the point where he sees that he is half naked and there's a woman lying there right next to him. And he's instantly thinking, oh my gosh, what have I done? Right? Woke up in Vegas. And it was a woman! Exclamation point. And he says, who are you? Again, it's dark. His brain might still be a little clouded from the wine. She says, I am Ruth, your servant. Spread your cloak over your servant, for you are next of kin. Now, she uses three things there. She says three things, two of which are translated servant, but in Hebrew, they're two different words. And although we don't know, it's commonly believed that the first is a regular servant. The second use of the second word that's translated servant is, I think it's Asa, A-S-A, something like that, is a closer servant, a higher ranking servant, one that would be permissible for the owner to marry. For the homeowner, the man to marry. They could marry that servant. Wouldn't be right for them to marry the lower servant, but they could marry this higher servant. So she's gone from saying I'm a servant to I'm this kind of servant. You are next of kin. That's an even closer relationship. So she's identifying herself in ways that are actually stepping into closer and closer relationships with him. Now, what is she asking? Remember, she's not doing what Naomi said. Naomi said, do what he tells you to do. Instead, she's telling him what to do. She's telling him what to do. Now, she says, spread your cloak over your servant. The words that's translated there can also mean wing. Spread your wing over your servant. And maybe we can read something sexual into that. You can, because that's there. But it's usually used as a sign of protection, or it's usually used in terms of protection. It's usually used. She's asking him. It seems anyway that she's asking him to marry her. It's a marriage proposal. She's proposing to him. Spread your cloak over me is a way of saying, marry me. Marry me. For you are next of kin. So she's actually, and we can read it as one thing or you can read it as two. marry me because you're the next of kin. Or she's asking him to marry me and then reminding him you are the next of kin, so you should be doing the redemption, to act as the kinsman redeemer, separating the two, which makes more sense because he kind of answers it. He answers both of those requests. He says, may you be blessed by Hashem. Excuse me. May you be blessed by Hashem. This last instance of your, it's a NRSV says loyalty, but it's that word hesed. It's that kindness that NIV talks about, but it's more than just a generic kindness. Remember, it's the same kind of kindness or mercy and grace that God offers. So that's in there. It's a deeper type of kindness or loyalty. Is this incident is better than the first? So what's he talking about? The first act of her kindness was coming back with Naomi, staying with Naomi, in which he'd already talked about. But now he's going to explain it a little bit more. You have not gone after young men, whether rich or poor, whether poor or rich. Okay. In other words, you could have just gotten married to anybody. You could have gotten married to anybody, but they wouldn't have solved Naomi's problem. That would have solved your problem, Ruth. If you'd gotten married to one of my young men, one of my male servants, that would have solved your problem. They would have made you safe and secure, but it wouldn't have helped Naomi at all. So the fact that you didn't go after one of them and instead have gone after me, which presumably, he's an older guy, thinking that, his time has passed, but he doesn't have any heirs left, presumably, as well, because it never mentions any heirs. So the author makes it seem as if he doesn't have any kids, and he's got no one to leave it to. So she's doing this kindness for Naomi, which is actually also a kindness for him. So she's saying that, and he says, do not be afraid. I will do for you all that you ask. For all the assembly of my people know that you are a worthy woman. So he's answering her first request, which is to marry her. He says, I will do this because everybody knows that you are a worthy woman. Now, why does he say that, or how does he say that? Oh, and yeah, we'll get to that too. It could be because of her prior reputation, the fact that she came back with Naomi, or it could be this new reputation that's been built up because of all the work she's been doing for these last 7 weeks and how she's continued to stay with Naomi throughout everything. Which, by the way, I should have mentioned this, because I said that if she'd married one of the young men, she would have been okay, but Naomi wouldn't, because all they've been doing is gleaning, which is basically hand-to-mouth subsistence level type thing. You can't get ahead, so to speak. And as soon as the season is done, you're done. So that's why this has to happen now, because they're at the end of the harvesting season. And if they don't do something now, where are they going to go? What's going to happen to them? She's been gleaning enough to stay alive, but you really can't save it beyond today or tomorrow, kind of thing. So telling you that people tell me the Bible is boring. I say, you're not reading the right parts. You read Ruth, and this is daytime soap opera stuff, isn't it? Anyway, where was I? So, worthy woman. Remember, excuse me. Remember back to yesterday, to chapter 2, the description of Boaz. I said that it's translated as a prominent man or rich man, a pillar of society. There's 2 Hebrew words, can't remember them. This part that's translated worthy woman is the feminine of those same 2 words. This feminine of those same 2 words. So what he is in effect saying, he's describing her in the same way that people describe him. He's virtually calling her his equal, at least in stature and position. Okay. However, And I mentioned this yesterday, that term can also refer to procreative power. So he could be saying something sexual about that as well. And it could be all of the above. It could be all of the above. So that was the answer to her first request, to marry me, protect me, spread your cloak over me, your wings over me, whichever way you want to translate it. Then he says, but now, though it is true that I am a near kinsman, there is another kinsman more closely related than I. Remember, we don't know the relationship of Boaz to Elimelech. Initially, when he was first described, he was just a kinsman with a word that had sort of a distant relationship to it. But then Naomi uses a different word that's much closer and says he's a close relative. Now, Boaz says, yes, I am a close relative, but there is one that's closer. So we don't know. We don't know. We don't know. We don't know. I think it's Leviticus gives at least some of the steps as far as who's supposed to be the redeemer, who's supposed to participate in that. It goes to brothers, and then I think it's uncles, and then it's first cousins. So maybe he's one of those. Maybe he's a cousin. Maybe he's talking about somebody who's actually an uncle to Elimelech or to Mahlon and Chilion. We don't know. Or there could be further steps that are outlined in legal documents and traditions that don't exist, because so much of it was cultural and geographical. Within a particular region, they might have had their own little code of ethics, code of rules to specify things clearer. So we don't know what his relationship is. We don't know what the relationship of this other person is, but he does say he's closer. And he said, I'm going to go talk to him in the morning. He said, stay here tonight. Stay here tonight. In the morning, I'll go see him, and we'll get this all straightened out. If he wants to do it, fine. If not, I'll take care of it. That's not changing the fact that he wants to marry, that he's going to marry Ruth. He's going to marry Ruth, because those are two different things. Those are two different things. And what's interesting too is some authors say, some scholars, biblical scholars and reviewers and readers say that Boaz needed Ruth to do this, to encourage him to marry her, because he always wanted to, but the fact that she was Moabite and he had such a high reputation, he was afraid to, until she challenged him. Okay. Which is interesting. All right, but stay here for the night. Then in the morning, I'll go talk to him. We'll straighten this whole thing out. It'll happen. So she lay at his feet until morning, but got up before one person could recognize another. Presumably, there was more than just the two of them on the threshing floor in that room, in that building that night. And even if there weren't, wouldn't want to be seen walking outside of the threshing floor and be recognized for who she was. So she had to get up before dawn. It must not be known that the woman came to the threshing floor. Didn't want to get, regardless of whether or not anything happened, Boaz didn't want her reputation tarnished. Also didn't want his reputation tarnished. So he wanted her to go, so that he could marry her in good faith and with everyone's reputation in place. And he gives her 6 measures of barley. And again, the Hebrew is vague. So what kind of measure? Did he give her 6 scoops of barley, or did he give her 6 grains of barley? It could be taken either way, and some people take it that way, and some traditions say it was just 6 grains, 6 actual heads of grain, symbolizing 6 sons that they were going to have together. Who knows? More likely, I think, he gives it to her, puts it on her back, and went into the city. He doesn't say that this is for your mother-in-law. He doesn't say anything about Naomi. He gives it to Ruth. It could be one of a couple different things besides that prediction of children. It could be it could be seen as her wages for the night having come to the threshing floor. It could also be seen, if it was intended for Naomi, as this promise from Boaz about what he was going to do, and kind of keep your mouth shut about Ruth coming to see me during the night type thing. So one of those is more likely than the idea of the 6 kids. She gets back to the house. She gets to the city. It says to the city. She gets to the house, and the translations, both NIV and NRSV, basically the same thing. Say, "How did things go with you, my daughter?" But and I don't think the NIV has it, but the NRSV has a footnote that says, "Who are you?" Because literally in Hebrew it is, "Who are you?" And we can take that because, again, it has a couple different meanings. Maybe because it's still so dark, she's surprised to see this person coming home, and she's not 100% sure who it is, or she might be. It might be more a question about her current status or position. Like, who are you? Almost a whose are you? Are you still Ruth, my daughter-in-law, or are you now Ruth, Boaz's wife? Okay, so it could be a couple different things that she's actually asking. Although it's translated here, "How did things go with you, my daughter?" And she told her all that the man had done for her. Told her the story about agreeing to marry her, and then he was going to go talk to the other guy. And he gave me these 6 measures of barley, for he said, "Do not go back to your mother-in-law empty-handed." He never said that. At least the author doesn't have him say that. She's adding a detail. Maybe it's for whatever reason. And Naomi says, "Wait, my daughter, until you learn how the matter turns out. For the man will not rest, but will settle the matter today." So she's confident. She's confident that Boaz is going to take care of it today. But as I said, there's no resolution to the tension, to the drama. The story has been building, and each of those scenes added a little layer to that tension, to that drama. And oh, what's going to happen next? Is he going to marry her? Is he going to be able to be the redeemer and reclaim their land? Because remember, and she has described herself, Ruth has described herself as a foreigner. Now, as a foreigner, well, as a woman too, but as a foreigner, she couldn't have property. So she is literally homeless, especially if anything happens to Naomi. Because she is living with her mother-in-law. It's said that a couple different times. She goes back to her mother-in-law, but she can't have a place of her own. So if this doesn't work out, what's going to happen? Right? We know the story, or we might if you've read it already. But if not, just hang in there, people. Live in the tension, so to speak. Well, my friends, again, I'm pleased and humbled that you chose to join me today. I hope I hope and pray that God spoke to you through something we've read or said today. As you go about your days, keep your eyes and ears open for what God is doing in your lives and in the lives of those around you. When you see it, when you hear it, say, "Thank you, Papa," and then tell somebody about it. Okay. Until we meet again, be blessed, my friends. Be blessed. Bye.